Here at Michigan Family Wellness, we believe chiropractic care and nutritional-based therapies are a foundational part of a healthy family lifestyle. No matter where you're at in the mitten, having a family is such an exciting time of life. So instead of feeling overwhelmed by stress, fatigue, and responsibilities with the kids, we invite you to become part of this empowering community to create happy, healthy families. By providing engaging interviews and practical applications, Dr. Wallner cultivates family health by equipping our listeners with the tools they need to elevate wellness in their own family. Dr. Wallner passionately serves the Michigan community at his chiropractic and nutrition-based practice, where he specializes in pregnancy, pediatrics, and family wellness care. And now, here's your host, Dr. Kyle Wallner.
Good day, families, and welcome home. That's right, my name is Dr. Kyle, and this is the Empowering MFW family, and we're so glad to be with you today. If you're joining us for the first time, I want to thank you for tuning in. You know, one of the things we say here all the time is the health of you and your family is your number one priority. It is your greatest asset. The best way to have a healthy family is by living a family wellness lifestyle. So if you're looking for efficient, effective, and sustainable ways to elevate your health and the health of your family, then I strongly recommend you make yourself comfortable, because we have an amazing show for you today. And before we get to today's episode, let me say a few words, as I do each and every week, about Power Performance Gym. Power Performance Gym is dedicated to helping you achieve your best definition of healthy and strong. Power Performance specializes in strength and conditioning for individuals, small groups, and athletic teams, weight and pain management, as well as recovery and nutrition. Everyone at Power experiences a full movement and health analysis to build your blueprint for success, targeting your goals. Mention the Michigan Family Wellness Podcast to receive your movement and health analysis as a complimentary gift. Learn more about how Power Performance can help you move, look, and feel better by visiting powergym.com. That's POWRGYM.com. Nikki Sharp is an internationally known wellness expert, health coach, and best-selling author. She is the creator of the #1 mobile app and best-selling book, The 5-Day Real Food Detox, a revolutionary approach to cleansing your body while losing weight. Nikki has studied at the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, the Institute of Optimum Nutrition, and the College of Naturopathic Medicine, where she gained vast knowledge in subjects ranging from sports nutrition to raw food and nutrition for everyday living. She has studied under Matthew Kenney, attending the plant-based culinary chef program, and is a 200-hour Yoga Alliance certified instructor. All right, families, let's jump into today's interview. Welcome, families, to the interview portion of today's podcast. I'm honored to be joined on the show today by Nikki Sharp. Welcome to the podcast, Nikki. It's so great to have you.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat.
It's been a pleasure getting acquainted with you over the past few weeks. I believe it was ultimately Twitter that connected us. And I've been checking out some of your detox content out there, so just honor and appreciation to you, Nikki. I'm excited to jump into our discussion today on how you help women and mothers elevate their health and family wellness lifestyle. But before we get there, there are two questions we ask every guest. So help our listeners and myself get to know you more by telling us what family looks like for you.
Wow, I actually really love that question. I had a hard time for a while defining what family was, because there's this preconceived notion that family needs to be husband, wife, kids, your parents. You have a stable, healthy relationship with all of the above. Mm-hmm. And as I started to really dream, like, what's my ideal family life, I started to understand that family to me actually means all of the relationships I've curated in my life, both that which I was born into and that which I have chosen. So my friends are my family, and I would do anything for them the same as I would do anything for my parents. I don't have a significant other. I don't have kids. So right now, family is anyone that is in my life, and I would basically do anything for at any given moment. And I think that people really should kind of step outside of like what the family mold is, because family is who you surround yourself with.
Couldn't agree more. We get that a lot on the podcast. Just, the people that you abide with, the people that help you out, that are in your corner, that are in your community. So absolutely, I totally agree with what you're saying. Nikki, another thing I love to say on the Michigan Family Wellness Podcast is that we are, let's see if I can do it here with the hand, we're smitten with the mitten. All right. So have you ever experienced the Great Lakes or anything that the mitten has to offer?
I haven't. I've actually never been out there. I've traveled extensively. I've lived in 7 countries. I've traveled to oh my God, probably 70 plus cities. And I have not been out that way. I'd love to come though. I hear it's beautiful.
Absolutely. Well, we'd love to have you sometime. But all right, Nikki, let's go ahead and get more in depth because I really want the women and mothers and families listening to benefit from your expertise, your experiences, and your unique perspective. So, Nikki, oftentimes I find what makes these conversations so relevant and so powerful is just briefly getting a better understanding of your story and what led you to become an internationally known wellness expert, a lifestyle coach, a best-selling author, all of these things. So kick off our discussion today by just, sharing your story.
Yeah, I love it. I've lived many, many lives, and the one that really has brought me to where I am is that I modeled for many years internationally. And within that, this was prior to really anyone understanding health. And this, probably 8 years ago plus, where people understood what health was. There was, all the South Beach diet and Atkins and all that, but people didn't really understand how prevalent the food you eat was to how we feel and mental and all of that. So I was modeling, I was not healthy. I was not eating enough food. And then I went the other way when agencies started to tell me to gain weight that I binged. So I learned 2 very, very bad eating disorders. I don't want to say I learned, I went through. And so I went through anorexia. I then also went through binging. And I realized for my own health, my life, I needed to get over this because the restriction cycle and all of that, it was so detrimental to my mind. And so I began learning about nutrition, and suddenly it was this passion because you realize you are the test subject. You can have a direct result on everything that you do. And so the more that I learned, the more that I saw that I felt really good, I started sharing that with Instagram, and I created an account honestly just to motivate myself. It was a very funny thing. I started an account to post motivational photos, and people started following me because no one else was doing it. It wasn't this big thing. There was Pinterest, but no one had these crazy big motivational accounts. So, and I was also very authentic in sharing my story of trying to heal myself of these eating disorders. So the more that I shared that authenticity, the more people followed me and everything. So that led me to gaining a lot of followers on Instagram. I hit the 50,000 mark, then the 100, then the 150, 200, then I'm now at 325,000.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Thanks. So that was never planned. Everything that I've done was purely to help myself and by way of learning, help other people. So I found my passion, and people liked the way that I shared this information because it was easy to understand. So I always say, I'm not telling you anything new. You know that a blueberry is good for you. I just share it in a different way where you're like, oh my God, a blueberry is good for me.
Right.
So I just started sharing information. I started a blog, and that led to me creating the 5-Day Detox, which was a program. There was nothing else on the market like it. And I don't advocate juicing. I don't advocate smoothie only things. I think it's, very unbalanced. And so I wanted to create a program that nourished you with superfoods and delicious meals, 5 meals a day. So I was like, screw it. I'm going to write my own program. I did. I started selling it as an ebook. I ended up selling 100,000 copies of it worldwide through Instagram only. And that then led to a 2-book deal with Random House. I created an app from it. So for those listening, there is the detox you can get in an app and then also as a book format. And then I've gone on from there. I get to go on TV shows and do awesome podcasts like this, and just
awesome.
At the end of the day, share my knowledge of everything that I've overcome: depression, insomnia, eating disorders, And most people look at me now and they're like, oh, you have great skin, you look beautiful, happy, healthy. She must have never gone through anything. So it's my job in life to prove that we all have gone through something.
Yeah, that's why I like to start with that question, because exactly to your point, I think people see, the other side, or the successful part, of the story, but they don't know the backstory. So I just appreciate hearing about, the health things that you went through, and, the lifestyle changes that you made, and then translating that or engaging that into, content that you can share with people, and that you can essentially turn into a living and support yourself. I think that's amazing. So along those lines of thinking, what are the components of Nikki's wellness lifestyle today? Or said in other ways, because I hear you talk about the after talks. Is that essentially the after talks?
Yeah. The reason in the book that I wrote about it, that you have the pre-talks, the detox, and the after talks. And I really wanted to touch base with people reading the book that it's not just about like a 5-day quick fix program. This really is a lifestyle change. So the pre-talks is figuring out everything that you might be doing wrong, and I don't even like that word, but that you can make a small change of, should you do the detox, all of that. The detox is the program. And then the after talks really is the lifestyle of how to maintain feeling amazing at all times. And when you fall off the wagon, how to get back on really quickly. Like I like to share this with people. I'm human too. I still have days where I don't eat as healthy. I binge, I drink too much, like whatever it might be. And you're like, okay, I haven't worked out in 2 weeks. I'm going to pick myself up and just start again. So the after talks is really my lifestyle principles of getting people to reframe their mind on healthy living.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talk a lot about that. Mindset in general, yes, there's the eating well, yes, there's the moving well. And as a chiropractor, I just love that moving well component. But to your point, the thinking well, we've done some podcasts on this for our listeners also, but those neurocognitive reflexes, those psychosomatic reflexes, the way we think can actually physically make us sick. And so I'm sure you've experienced that. I'm sure you work with people that experience that. And, in our culture that just worries all the time, we're so anxious. And I think doing a detox or really watching what you eat or you put in can help mitigate the effects of a anxious or a worrisome predisposition, if you will. So, Nikki, let me set up another framework here for you. Let's say there's a woman listening today who is just stressed out of her mind. Maybe she has a few kids, maybe she doesn't, but she's juggling the work-family balance, right? And perhaps, she is thinking about she might be thinking about starting a family, but she doesn't want to rely on over-the-counter drugs, pharmaceutical medications, and the standard model of cut, burn, or poison, just so that she can spend more time with her family, be more productive at work, have more energy, lose weight, sleep better, and cultivate good health for years to come. What would you say to her?
Wow. I would probably say take a deep breath.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that really is going to be the most important thing, is slowing down and taking a breath. As you said, everything there, we're trying to achieve so much in today's day and age. We're trying to be the best mother, father, sister, brother, lover, friend, work colleague, boss, leader. And it's a lot of pressure. And we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. And then on top of that, we have to eat well and exercise and sleep enough. And, there's so many things. And so I like to simplify it and say, okay, first and foremost, let's take a step back and just breathe, calm the mind. And as you had mentioned, mindset is the most important thing. So really figuring out what's the most important thing and trying to tackle that first. So if you know that you're not eating very well and you don't have enough energy, okay, let's just try adding in maybe one green smoothie a day. It's really that simple. Or if you want to be a better, communicator with your partner, it's like, okay, why don't you set out time to do that every single week, where you put your phones away at dinner, or maybe it's you do a family dinner where no phones are allowed and you spend quality time at least once a week as a family. So instead of trying to do everything all at once and, become the most healthy, fit, this, that, the other kind of crazy person,
right?
It's like just slow down and really focus on what is most important to you right now. If it's losing weight, then I always ask my clients, why is it losing weight? What's the goal there? Are you trying to lose weight because you want to look good or because you actually have a condition that you need to fix? So focusing on one thing and slowing down and having patience as well, because, we try to do everything all at once and we get overly stressed out and then we revert back to our old ways. We know that change takes time. We didn't learn to eat unhealthy overnight. We're not going to learn to eat healthy overnight. It's change and you need to see results. So focusing on one thing and also being grateful for where you are right now, because everyone's gone through their own journey and will be. And I've always said, like, my health journey started off and it's a journey and it's never ending. And I learn more, I adjust, I change things. And so just knowing that you're on this beautiful journey and there is no place you're trying to get to, it's just being here in the moment, being happy with where you are now will lead you to where you're trying to go.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And I love what you said there too about, not expecting everything to happen overnight. I mean, even with you talk about the 5-day detox, I love how you say it's not just about feeling good for 5 days. It's really more about how can you achieve lifelong success, turn this into a lifestyle so you have that longevity component to where, now this is part of who you are, your identity almost. Again, circling back to so many things you mentioned right there, taking time to just concentrate on your breathing. We can't take a good deep breath when we're in a overdriven sympathetic state. We have to be in a parasympathetic mode. And I just love talking about that. Again, bringing it back to chiropractic adjustments, the neck, the vagus nerve, innervating the entire gut digestion, and that's one of the things that I like to actually focus on. Because sometimes, Nikki, people will come to me with, digestion problems. Maybe they're trying a detox. There's tons of things out. There's so many great things out there. And I really advocate for the 5-day detox. But, every now and then, people might have some digestive problems where they're doing things, as prescribed or as directed, and they're still having some issues. One of the things I tell them is, you're putting that high octane good food into your body, but you got to make sure you're sending the right signals for digestion. Do people ever come to you with those questions?
Oh my, not in that specific framing,
Mm-hmm.
but oh my gosh, yes. I mean, I get people all the time and clients saying, I'm following the perfect diet, mind you. I said there's no such thing as perfect, and we're all so different. But I'm following the quote unquote perfect diet. I'm exercising, and I've hit a plateau, and I'm not healthy, and I have adrenal fatigue, and you name it. And you're like, okay, well, let's take a step back. And the first questions I ask whenever I start working with someone is actually not about the food. The food that comes later to me. It's let's dive into the stress, because you hit on a great thing. If you're stressed and you're not kind of in a relaxed state, eating is the worst thing you can do when you're stressed. You literally stop digesting your food. Mm-hmm. And so many people, especially it's like comfort food, you're stressed, you get home at night, you have a glass of wine, and then you overeat something, or, you go out to dinner, and it's when you're stressed, the food just completely stops and you don't absorb the nutrients. And so in my book, I talk about this a lot, where it's like setting a really nice, table setting, putting technology away, not eating when you're walking down the street, because we just get so caught up in everything needs to be done yesterday. Therefore, I can never sit down and enjoy everything that I'm doing. And then you see, that you don't lose the weight, or you have the adrenal fatigue, or what, the issues that I'm sure get approached all the time with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just to continue on your line of thinking there, in the same way that, our muscles need to be exercised for proper function, for proper growth, for our metabolism, for our wellness, essentially, we also have to fire certain nerves. So, again, with digestion, with the vagus nerve, sometimes I'll tell patients, and I want to provide this for our listeners, go ahead and take a glass of water, and I want you to gargle that glass of water aggressively for a good 10 or 20 seconds, because when you do that, you're firing that vagus nerve. And if you don't send those signals of digestion, if you can't get, a nerve to propagate all the way down into your gut, you're not going to be getting enzyme release, stomach acid release, all these things. So definitely gargling, humming, singing. There's all these different vagus nerve exercises that people can do. And I often do this when I'm in the car driving when no one can hear me because the singing's pretty bad. But again, my point is, if you don't actually fire the nerve, it's just like a muscle, it's going to atrophy. And when we're constantly stressed, when our cortisol is constantly sky high, those nerves aren't firing. And so I'm sure you see that all the time. Here's a quick question for you, Nikki. What are some of your favorite, specifically bitter foods? Do you have any favorite bitter foods?
Oh, you're asking me a tricky question because
Okay.
I'm going to answer it. I don't know if it's considered bitter or not because
Okay.
there's like the different spectrums. So bitter foods, I really love arugula, which I know
Yes.
is it's one of my favorites. So that I love to mix that with spinach and make salads, and I try to eat those leafy greens raw as much as I can instead of
Mhm.
heating them up.
Absolutely, arugula. Basically, your green leafy vegetables,
Yeah.
everything like that is going to be bitter. I mean, to your point as well, having a glass of wine every now and then, that bitter wine is very good for digestion. My point here, Nikki, is that specifically, there's sour, there's sweet, there's umami, there's all these different senses for taste, right? Specifically bitter, I've looked at some research recently, but specifically bitterness fires so much neurologically in terms of digestion. So I just wanted to provide that value for our listeners here. Now, Nikki, as a man, as a guy, real quick, I know this is not a huge point of the podcast here, but tell us about the Guy Talks for the men listening out there.
I love it. So in the book, I decided to do a thing called the Guy Talks because I think that so many detoxes and cleanses are very geared towards women. And in this chapter, I give very, very hard scientific stats on weight loss, fat, the difference between visceral fat and subcutaneous fat, and really giving analogies, like how you treat your car and all of that versus your body, and also how eating correctly affects you as a guy and your testosterone and all these different things, and like how beer affects your gut. So for me, it was giving a chapter for a guy that if you don't read the rest of the book and you just read this one chapter, you've received enough information to hopefully then do the detox. And in general, guys see even more benefits from the detox than women do, just because you guys do see in general, like weight loss and all of that, a lot more. Food affects you far more greatly, we'll say. But it was just important for me to talk to that male audience and say, hey, like this specifically, my detox is good for everyone. It doesn't matter your gender or age. And I highly recommend, especially men, doing it because men typically don't put as much priority on the food they eat in terms of a health benefit. Like when I see people getting really into food, it's more, we'll say, paleo based, and they go lift heavy and all of that. And it's less about the health aspect and more of the outside. And so I'm trying to target, in 5 days, you can change the inside, which will affect the outside, which affects your life.
Absolutely. I think I'm just looking at a Jim Rohn quote here that I think really applies to what you're saying. And essentially, Nikki, what you provide are the basic fundamentals. So to kind of give that in context, success is neither magical nor mysterious. Success is the natural consequence of consistently applying the basic fundamentals. And I appreciate how you have a context, both for men and women, because honestly, people are people. The same principles that apply for women can also be applied for men. But to your point, yes, there is kind of this predisposition of men like, oh, I can do it on my own, or I don't need anyone to help me. But actually, you could learn a lot. You don't know everything, right? So we try to bring that here on the...
So I think it's just so important for people to understand that it's not what you do on your own, and it's not about, what's right, what's wrong. It's just finding what works for you. And then also having a support system within that, because if you're trying to achieve your health goals and your whole family is still eating really bad and you're trying to eat well, you're probably not going to succeed. So it's really about creating community and getting people aligned with you in the same mentality. So if you're really stressed out, I would say take a look at the people you hang out with, because you will probably find that they are not really uplifting individuals. So
Absolutely. Having those good friendships, good relationships, surrounding yourself, what's the other quote? You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So definitely to your point there. Again, Nikki, one of the purposes of the Michigan Family Wellness Podcast is to be an audio library resource for the women, mothers, and families who want to learn more about elevating their family wellness and increasing their resiliency, or that strength to adapt to the stress and the challenges in their life. One of the ways we accomplish this is by asking our guest for practical applications. And I know you've mentioned a couple so far, taking those deep breaths, definitely the 5-Day Detox book and the app. Is there anything else you want to drop on our listeners in terms of practical applications?
Yes, absolutely. My favorite thing to do every single day, and I recommend it to everyone, is writing a gratitude log. Because this goes far beyond what food you put into your body and what exercise you do. I get asked a lot, on a side note, what's the best thing one can eat for health? Mm-hmm. And my answer is a little bit tricky because it's not an actual food. I say positive thoughts, because positive thoughts are going to far outweigh, that organic kale and blueberry smoothie that you have. So writing a gratitude log is as simple as saying the date, today I'm grateful for, and just a few things, and it can be just one word. I'm grateful for my family or cat, or, as much as I'm grateful for doing a podcast today and being able to educate people. So when you do that consistently every single day, you immediately start to see a shift in the mind, and the stress just naturally reduces. So gratitude log, I think also, in terms of like health and what you're eating, I always say having as much lemon as possible, lemon and greens, and just because we know lemon is so high in vitamin C, and to drink more water, you just put fresh lemon juice in it.
There you go.
And then counting colors. So I never advocate people counting points or macros or calories. It's looking at your plate and seeing how many colors of food do I have. And I always say, try to have 3+ colors. So if I give you a salad that, spinach, cucumber, broccoli, edamame salad, it's like, it looks probably tasty. Then if I give someone else the same salad and I add some tomatoes on, there's naturally it's going to look better. And then if I serve myself one with all that, and then it has carrots and beets and some radishes, mine's going to look the most appetizing. And that's because we eat with our eyes and we like colorful things. So naturally, you will stop having to diet when you focus on colors.
Absolutely. Love it. I really appreciate that perspective too. Eating with your eyes, again, going back to neurology, we can't digest when we're in that chronic stress state. So Nikki, where can people find more about you?
Pretty much everywhere online. If you Google my name, Nikki Sharp, a lot comes up, but I'm on, as we mentioned, on Twitter. I do lots of health tweets and motivational stuff on Twitter, Nikki R. Sharp, and then Nikki Sharp on Instagram, and my website, nikkisharp.com.
Outstanding, Nikki. You have brought the value today. Thank you for giving back and becoming part of the MFW family.
Thank you. It was an honor.
So, what'd you think? We'd love to get your feedback. If you would like to email me about anything you've heard on this or any previous edition of the Michigan Family Wellness Podcast, you may do so, Dr. Kyle at MichiganFamilyWellness.com, and take full advantage of the Family Wellness Lifestyle Audio Library at MichiganFamilyWellness.com. Thanks so much for tuning in this week, families. Have an awesome week, and remember, we can do far more together than we could ever do apart.
Now that you've been equipped with the latest in family wellness solutions, we want to encourage you to apply these strategies right away. But the thing is, there's still so much to learn. Connect with Dr. Wallner's Chiropractic and Nutrition Office by going to MichiganFamilyWellness.com and click the newsletter sign-up button to join the informative and supportive community of chiropractic wellness. You will also receive as a gift from Dr. Wallner a copy of Michigan Family Wellness Solutions, an invaluable resource containing dynamic tools to elevate family health and vitality. Michigan Family Wellness wants to thank you for being part of today's podcast. Please subscribe to our podcast on iTunes and give us a 5-star rating and review.